Alberta's new Environment Minister says he'll scrap the previous government's Bighorn Parks plan. Last November, the NDP announced 8 new parks in what is known as Bighorn country along the eastern edges of Banff and Jasper National Parks. Jason Nixon says the plan was flawed and the UCP will not go ahead with it. Residents in the area had voiced their concerns about how the project might affect oil and gas exploration. Danielle Smith from Global News Radio 770 CHQR is going to dig a little bit deeper into this one on her show this morning. Danielle, we know there were complaints about the consultation process. There are questions now whether the UCP is more interested in energy concerns than wilderness areas. And we also know that the First Nations rejected the NDP's plan as well. So there is so much to this story. Just take it away. Just go.
I don't know if anyone really liked the proposal. I mean, the idea behind it makes some sense. If you talk to the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, and I did, they want to be able to make sure that you've got a continuous space of land so that you can not have grizzly bear habitat all chopped up. You want to be able to have grizzlies able to wander their entire territorial range so that you can preserve genetic diversity and all of that. So the notion behind it is a pretty good one. The question is, did they go through with enough diligence and identify the areas that are truly necessary to take out of complete development? Or did they go too far? And I think that that's what a lot of people were raising concerns about. If you've got First Nations communities saying, we weren't consulted, and that's to me quite shocking because it was the NDP government that was leading the way on reconciliation efforts with First Nations, but they did a terrible job of consulting with First Nations in this case. The previous Environment Minister also claimed that she had consulted with municipal leaders in the area. Turns out she hadn't. They were opposed to it as well. And if you're going to do something like this, you have to rely on the local expertise of people who use the area, who live in the area, and who work the area. I talked to the forestry companies as well. They were kind of confused about what it was going to mean for them. And let's remember, I mean, with the California wildfires last year, one of the studies that came out of that is that part of the reason why they burnt so hot and so out of control was because of mismanagement of forested areas. So this notion that we should just take a fence and build it around an area and nature will take care of itself is a flawed approach in the first place. You need forestry to help manage the resource in a way that's going to maintain biodiversity and also the health of the forest. There may be some areas where you can continue to allow oil and gas development. And the big sticker seems to be on the issue of off-highway vehicles. I think what has happened is that increasingly the approach that's being taken is to lock them out of more and more areas. And if you don't ride off-highway vehicles, you probably aren't going to have much sympathy for that. But there's a lot of people who invested a lot of money in that as a hobby. And so there needs to be some kind of strategic approach to identify the go areas. Where can you go? And I think that they, if they can take the approach of flipping it around that way, where you find a balance between all of these competing interests, I think we'll be a bit better off.
Thanks, Danielle.
My pleasure.